Empire. The Misfits are becoming mainstream.
My background actually isn't in the gaming esports world, but exactly to your point, that is where it is going. It's going to more content, lifestyle, culture, celebrity, kind of what's cool, right?
That's Lagen Nash, Chief Revenue Officer of Misfits Gaming, where the pros on the esports circuit are growing. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. Lagen Nash has experience at the network level with Fox, but has shifted her focus to helping grow the professional side of esports with Misfits Gaming. The pandemic may have stifled some of their live options, but with things changing and the momentum of the platforms and sector growth unchanged, she, like everyone in the space, sees a bright future. Our guest this week is Lagen Nash, who is the Chief Revenue Officer of the Misfits Gaming Group, which is a premier professional esports organization that owns and operates a whole portfolio of competitive esports teams across multiple platforms. Hi, Lagen. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm good. How are you? I'm happy to be here.
So what a weird year we've had, but what an explosive year for esports. How do you kind of view growth in the industry amid the pandemic?
Yeah, I would say, there's a really funny kind of underlying thing here where everyone hears esports and they think, everything is booming.
Yeah.
I think the gaming industry severely, boomed in this pandemic, and the gaming industry as well. But, when it comes to, my world, we still worked with brands that were greatly impacted with, all that went on in the pandemic. So it was very interesting to watch from when it started last March to where we are today, how everyone kind of, pivoted and how we were able to excel with kind of all of the unknowns, right? So now looking back, it was a wild year, and I think brands have really learned the past year how important the gaming ecosystem is. If I'm looking at 30,000 foot in, that's kind of my takeaway from this past year.
Could you be specific on that? Like, what did they find out about that ecosystem over the last year or so?
Yeah, I think when the beginning of the pandemic started, you saw all traditional sports come to a halt, right? Like the NBA didn't know what to do. The NFL didn't know what to do. Everyone was like scrambling. But, the e-gaming world really was able to pivot in a matter of a week's time. I remember our home series was supposed to go off a week later than before everything was shut down, right? So, they pivoted very easily into what they could do in that kind of environment. And brands gravitated towards that. They were like, look, esports lights are on, right? Like there is an ability to talk to our customers here in sports where everything else is shut down, right? So I think that in itself really made the industry stand out as the pandemic kind of surged its way through last year.
Yeah. And there's a number of non-endemic brands that are coming into your space as well, right?
Oh, yeah. More and more as we continue to grow, and we've really taken the time, my team, to really educate these non-endemic brands on how to speak and how to activate in this space, especially in a pandemic, right? So we've seen a lot of success from non-endemic brands taking that leap of faith and coming into the esports world.
That's interesting. When you say we're trying to tell them how to speak in this space, what do you mean by that? Like, what are you telling them?
Yeah, so a lot of our non-endemic brands, they come to us and they're like, look, we know this is our future consumer. This is the audience we need to reach. But how do we speak to them? How do we get them engaged in our products, right? Or whether it's, a bank or a fast food company.
Yeah.
And what our job is to take our expertise as being, this entertainment company in this vertical and highlighting their brand in an authentic way that shows that their brand is elevated to this audience, right? So if you look at brands that we worked with, Zaxby's, SoFi. SoFi last year had never been in the esports space, and they took a leap of faith, and the success that they saw was tremendous. I mean, they really leaned on us to speak to the audience in authentic ways. I mean, we created 2 custom commercials for them that ran in the Overwatch and Call of Duty broadcast. And I mean, those 2 commercials were animated, which is very, very untraditional for a bank.
Huh.
And it did unbelievable numbers. So it's really having brands listen to our advice and taking that leap of faith, because this audience, this demographic is so unique. It's not like traditional sports.
No, it's not. And I still feel like we're in the beginning of it. Do you agree with that? Because it does feel like on some level when we talk to people that like this was clearly like esports is a huge thing personally, has been for a long time, is exploding as a content provider, but it was all kind of in silos for a long time. And it seems like that there is this branching out and everyone's figuring that out as they go.
Absolutely. I mean, most of our brands, we do monthly reporting for them where we look at all of the assets and we navigate them. We're like, look, this is working, this isn't working, so let's pivot, or let's change this, or let's lean in on this. So I really think as these brands get more educated by companies like Misfits, and our counterparts, they will surge in this environment because they have the experts guiding them.
Tell us a little bit about Misfits. What's the background? How did it get started, and what do you guys specialize in?
Yeah, so Misfits is about 4 years old. It was founded by Ben Spoon, who's the CEO. We started with an investment, obviously, in our League of Legends team over in the LEC. And over the past couple of years, we've grown into the Activision Blizzard League franchises. We really specialize. I mean, the company is morphing into an entertainment company. And, we are known for our franchise teams, which we have, like I said, one in League of Legends in the LEC, which is the Misfits Gaming. Then we have the Overwatch team, which is our Florida Mayhem. And then we have our Call of Duty team, which is our Florida Mutineers. And then we have a variety of streamers and influencers that play games like Fortnite, etc. And as we grow as a company, we really are morphing into a lifestyle gaming ecosystem, and you'll see here in the next couple of weeks some announcements coming out from Misfits on how we are doing that. Really kind of getting the gas in the engine to become a powerhouse media company.
Support for this podcast comes from PayPal. Small business owners, turn your smartphone into a cash register. PayPal QR codes are the safe and easy way to get paid in store, and they deliver the same security and trust PayPal is known for online, in person. Even if you're a cash-only business, with PayPal QR codes, you can accept credit or debit with everyday low fees. There's no additional hardware or software needed. Generate your unique QR code from the PayPal app and display it on your device, or print it to display in store. Customers scan your code with their PayPal app. You only need your smartphone. Learn more at paypal.com/us/getqrcode.
Did you start as a branding company? Can you kind of help me? Were you just looking for gamers?
No, we started as a traditional esports company. I mean, the company launched with like I said, the League of Legends team, and then we made a few other investments into the franchise market with Activision Blizzard. And from there, we've really kind of taken, the esports is kind of like the core of our business, right? And we're building upon that with other assets like content, as you know, is a huge area in this world. So that's kind of where we're going. I would say if I had to look down the roadmap of where Misfits will be, but like esports is our core business.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because we've had a lot of others, in this space come on, and I think they're kind of dipping their toe in where you all are going too, which is there's branding opportunities. There's kind of incorporating into a new culture that it is kind of become ubiquitous in ways that maybe music did not that long ago, and kind of crossed over into pop culture in an interesting way. Like, are you guys kind of navigating all of that right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why people like myself were brought on. I came from a long career in traditional media at Fox, right? So my background actually isn't in the gaming esports world, but exactly to your point, that is where it is going. It's going to more content, lifestyle, culture, celebrity, kind of what's cool, right?
Yeah.
And so we're really trying to figure out how we capitalize on that. still having our authentic voice, of course, and being the brand that we have built. But yeah, definitely that is where I see this world really into in the future. And I think the pandemic actually helped expedite that timeline.
Yeah. So leaning back on that experience with Fox and thinking about the future, what does the future of programming look like in and around esports?
Yeah, I think you're seeing it. I mean, you see Activision Blizzard and doing their broadcast rights with YouTube. It's all OTT. I think you see traditional media really struggling to keep that viewership on your television in your living room and in cable. So I think you are going to see the YouTube, these platforms that house content like TikTok, even Clubhouse, right? Those are on the rise.
Yeah.
That is the future. And I have to say, I don't count myself as old, but man, every day I'm educating myself. There's a new tool out there. I'm like, oh my God, so I think there's just so much out there in terms of how to view content, and it is all digital. I mean, that's where it's at. I mean, we've done that for a while, and being at Fox, that was something that we were really trying to keep up with when I was there. Is how do we pivot from a traditional media company to compete with the Misfits and the Activision Blizzards of the world, right? That are these booming digital platforms.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, can they? I mean, I don't know that they can. That's the hardest part of this. The landscape is wide open. So how does a behemoth like Fox actually change their model? I don't know how in the world they would go about doing that.
Well, I think you've seen it. I mean, you saw the Disney Fox acquisition, right? So they're consolidating because they all need each other at this point.
Yes.
And then you're seeing them, with these acquisitions, what they're buying. I mean, they're trying to diversify their portfolio because, exactly to your point, I mean, they have to compete and they have to understand everything that's coming out. I mean, like the clubhouses. I mean, I remember when Fox bought MySpace. What was that? 15 years ago, and that was the hot thing. And look where we are today.
Yeah.
So it's a constant pivot. It's a constant, understanding the market. And I have to say, this audience and this demographic in the gaming world is very unique. It's an audience that every brand wants to capture, even every media company wants to capture, and they're putting their heads together. How do we do that in the most authentic way, right?
Yep. Do you think that some of the traditional sports will try to find a way to incorporate themselves into esports more so than what they're doing already? Do you see that marriage happening?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but the Cleveland Browns, the Orlando Magic, and the Miami Heat are big investors in Misfits Gaming Group. Oh. And if you look across most esports orgs, if you dive into their kind of board investor base, a lot of traditional sports teams are either investors or board members. So absolutely. I mean, you see the NBA has the whole 2K league. I mean, there is so much crossover because the traditional sports know that this demographic is where they're losing, and they have to regain it, right?
They do. There's a couple of other things that you all are behind that I want to touch on with you, which is women and participation in esports and why that's important to you at Misfits.
Oh, it's a huge initiative for us. So, we are in the process of launching a Women in Misfits initiative, but, many people don't know that, majority of our leadership at Misfits is women. And when Misfits was started, one of the core pillars of the company and brand ethos was diversity and inclusion. And I have to give Ben Spoon and the rest of the leadership team, because I'm pretty new here, a tremendous job on the focus and drive to have diversity, women, all across the board. We have done a tremendous job in making sure that we are true to that brand ethos. And I know that we're still in the works of announcing this, so I don't want to give too much, but we will be coming out with a large women's initiative, not only women at Misfits, but women across the entire gaming community with this platform to really make a voice and make sure that everyone feels supported. And
the other one is mental health. Can you kind of expand on that and how and why that's important at Misfits? Yeah.
I think it goes under the same premise that I spoke about with the women's initiative. I mean, Ben, the CEO, is a tremendous leader, and really goes down to kind of understanding the needs that people are searching for that normal companies don't support. And one of the things that he's done is he's brought in a very seasoned professional to help not only our players, but our employees really deal with, anything they have on mental health. I mean, I had Carol Rubenstein, who's our chief wellness officer, speak to my team a couple weeks ago on just, mental health in this pandemic. Everyone's working from home. How does everyone stay kind of, on their A game and really have, the best mental health that they can? And having that resource at the company is tremendous. I mean, my team was so thankful and really appreciated having that.
It's funny, I'm by saying this, I know there's a lot of parents that will listen to this and disagree, but I've seen, especially with my kids being stuck inside essentially for a year now, I've seen esports for them to be a lifeline. And I know others look at it as too much screen time or too much this or too much that. But I've seen the benefit of it, especially right now in this very unusual time that hopefully will be over very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you hear from a lot of parents, I think you get the mix, but I think that the gaming world has allowed these kids to still have a connection, right, with people inside their own home. And I even think the way that they're learning, with technology through this pandemic is really changing how we all learn, I guess. But yeah, no, I think that the gaming world in this pandemic has been an amazing outlet for kids, across the world.
Okay, so let's end on this thought then with that in mind and where we started, which is this has been a very interesting year. People have been locked up essentially for about a year, but there's light at the end of the tunnel and things are going to change, hopefully by fall and certainly into next year. Where do you see esports and groups like Misfits going when the world opens back up again?
I think one of the things we're the most excited for is back to live events. I mean, one of the kind of the core offerings that we have as esports organization is to host these live events in our DMA and really grow our Florida fan base. And I think we're kind of getting the signs and, fingers crossed that things are trending that way. Because I think once you add the live events component into esports, it's a whole other level, right? I mean, that's you're now really on par with traditional sports and being able to really compete, having those similar assets. So I think that looking down, I say, 6 to 12 month timeline is really getting the live events feedback so we can engage with our fans and grow our brand presence in the markets that we're in.
Lagen Nash is the Chief Revenue Officer at Misfits Gaming. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me this morning.
Hotels.com takes the drama out of booking a trip. With free cancellation on most hotels, the only booking drama is bed drama. Like choosing between a room with 2 queen beds or a king bed for your trip with your new significant other. You've only been dating for 3 weeks, but you were dating in your head for months before that, so it's serious. Is that clingy? Oh man, maybe we aren't ready for a trip together. No? We are. Let's book this trip so you can propose. Booking a trip can feel dramatic, but with free cancellation, you can't go wrong with Hotels.com. Terms apply. See site for details.
Support for this episode comes from Unleashed with the Dingo and Danny, a new podcast fueled by Monster Energy, recorded at Studio M inside Monster Energy headquarters. Unleashed is the alternative sports podcast you've been waiting for. Hear exclusive, previously untold stories from groundbreaking athletes that came to push the limits of their sports. Learn the keys to success from guests including pro skater Nyjah Houston, motocross legend Ryan Villapoto, UFC fighter Jessica Rose Clark, freestyle skier Tom Wallace, BMX trailblazer Pat Casey, NFL superstar Rob Gronkowski, and powerlifter Jake Johns, a.k.a. Big Boy. New episodes of Unleashed drop every 2 weeks on Mondays. Tune in now on your favorite podcast platform, YouTube or MonsterEnergy.com for the latest episode of Unleashed with the Dingo and Danny, fueled by Monster Energy.
On the next Future Sport podcast, AI may become the physical trainer of the future.
Back in the day, I used to do CrossFit quite a bit, and unfortunately, I used to injure myself doing CrossFit. And so I kept thinking, is it something about my form or my technique? And I figured if I'm having this problem, as a weekend warrior type, countless millions from the professionals to, amateur athletes like myself must be having the same issue.
That's Masa Kabayama, founder and CEO of Uplift Labs, where revelations in biomechanics are being applied to everyone and anyone who works out. That will do it for this episode. As always, the future is now. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3 Advance, developers of sports tech apps that are AI-powered and UX-focused. So if you're looking to create some apps for your startup or your sports biz calls for some artificial or business intelligence, you should check out 3 Advance. They're incredible. Go to 3advance.com. That's the number 3advance.com.